Ladies and gentlemen, we just got these breaking news straight from the Senate floor. Today I'm going to tell you what Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin told the Senate Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship in regards to what he would do to package a second round of stimulus. First off, I just sat through the entire testimony of both Javita Carranza, Small Business Administration Administrator, and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin before the Senate Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship. It's about an hour long, and Republican Senator from Louisiana, John Kennedy, asked Treasury Secretary Mnuchin specifically, the word king is verbatim, if you were king, what would you include in a second round of stimulus or an additional round of stimulus? Treasury Secretary, of course, he stuck to his guns along the lines of the same messaging that the rest of the Trump administration's officials are communicating. We are trying to do everything we can to ensure that businesses reopen, that they are encouraged to reopen, that they get people back to work. He talked about unemployment insurance, most specifically the pandemic unemployment assistance. That's the $600 a week that the federal government is paying to everybody that's on an unemployment insurance. They don't want to do anything that stops people from going to work. He noted that some people are making more money through the pandemic unemployment assistance than going to work. So they're going to take a close eye as to what happens. And then, of course, they want to evaluate what happens with the money that's already circulating through the country or the money that is still to be circulated from the CARES Act. And based on those economic indicators, the administration and the rest, they will work with lawmakers to decide on what will be most appropriate for a second round of funding. As you know, senior economic advisor Kevin Hassett told Fox News a couple of days ago that basically the same thing. They want to see what happens throughout the next couple of weeks and then determine what they would do in a second round of stimulus. Well, among everything that he said, among everything that the Treasury Secretary said he would include in the package, he stated that he would include more direct payments. He was seriously considering more direct payments to Americans. So that's something, and he said that he would include that if he was king. Remember, Republican Louisiana Senator, he specifically asked him, if you were king, what would you include in another round of stimulus? He said direct payments. If you remember, among everybody on Utah, I was probably the only one that reported that the White House exclusively released a statement to CNBC that read that among all the proposals and provisions in the HEROES Act, the White House would only likely support another round of direct payments. In that report, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin stated that he originally wanted to include another round of stimulus checks in the CARES Act. Nonetheless, Congress failed to appropriate funding for that second round of stimulus. So it looks very likely that a second round of stimulus checks will be sent out to you, to everyone who is eligible for it. Because as I said, there's been crazy support, as I had alluded to in my previous videos, when before the White House actually released that statement to CNBC, CNBC jointly released a study with Change Research that found that a whopping 74% of swing state voters wanted recurring direct payments. They didn't want to settle for just a second round of direct payments. They wanted recurring direct payments. Among those voters, 56% of Republicans supported direct payments. I've already explained this, but I'll just go ahead and give you some context. Swing state voters are very important to presidential elections because these states are up for grabs. Any presidential candidate can win these states. That's why you see presidential candidates exclusively campaign in these states. In the states of Ohio, in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, Florida, because they know, first off, it's up for grabs, and whoever wins these states typically wins the presidency. They don't waste their time on campaigning in New York because they know Democrats already have that in the bag. Same thing with Cali. They don't waste their time campaigning in Texas or in Alabama because they know that Republicans already have those states sewn up. These are red and blue states. So swing state voters are very important, and they want recurring direct payments. There was also support in following Change Research and CNBC study that found that people preferred an extension to the pandemic unemployment assistance, the $600 a week that the federal government is funding and paying people on unemployment insurance, as opposed to the $450 bonus that Republicans proposed to get people back to work. In other words, if people return to work, the federal government will pay them $450 on top of their regular wages. Although the White House has been beating around the bush in regards to mentioning direct payments every time that they are speaking in interviews on major news networks, when they talk about that they want to include provisions in the package that encourage people to get back to work, it's safe to say that something like a direct payment may be something that can boost spending even if they are encouraging people to get back to work, because the Bureau of Economic Analysis actually just released a report finding that in April, consumer spending dropped by 13%, a little bit over 13%. So people have received these direct payments and they've received this aid. Nonetheless, they're not spending it. Nonetheless, if they're working and they're getting a regular paycheck, plus they get that direct payment, then that may encourage them to start spending and help the economy expand. GDP contracted, as you remember, so more stimulus checks may work well with all of these provisions that encourage people to get back to work in order to boost spending or to stimulate spending. Let me know what you think. Let me know what are your feelings. Leave your comments in the comment section below. I'll go ahead and post videos and directly respond to them as time allows, because I'm going to go ahead and review my notes from the rest of the talk. It was an hour-long talk before the Senate committee. There's also some news in regards to the economic injury disaster loans and what Javita Carranza and the SBA plan on doing to move up processing and get more loans into American businesses' pockets. Let me know what you think. Comment section below. Watch this video right here for additional stimulus coverage. Click the like button if you like the video. Click the subscribe button to stay on top of my findings. I will do my best to report what other people won't. Talk soon.